The stars had never seemed so quiet. From the bridge of the human battleship Endurance, Captain Mara Voss gazed at the endless stretch of black, dotted with distant suns. Around her, the crew moved with the calm efficiency only humans seemed capable of when facing chaos. Today was the day the galaxy would finally notice them, not as another minor species, but as a force that could not be ignored. Across the void, the Xylarian armada approached. Thousands of ships, each shaped like jagged black crystal, glimmered ominously against the starlight. The Xylarians were known for their merciless tactics and numerical superiority. Entire worlds had fallen before their fleets, their victims never seen again. And yet, here was humanity, a small pocket of defiant resistance, waiting for them in the Beta Centauri system. "Captain," Lieutenant Harrell said, his voice tight with tension, "they're forming battle lines. We're outnumbered 50-1. Mara nodded, her eyes cold but determined. "Numbers don't win wars. Strategy does. And humans, we adapt." A low hum ran through the ship as the weapons systems powered up. Mara had spent months studying Xylarian tactics, learning how their hive-mind communication created near-perfect coordination. If humans were to survive, they would need to think faster, strike smarter, and exploit the weaknesses no alien could imagine. The Endurance was small but heavily armed, outfitted with experimental quantum weapons developed in secret on Earth. Only humans could create such unpredictability. Mara tapped her communicator. "All ships, initiate Phase 1 mirror shadow." Across the fleet, human ships split into phantom patterns, disappearing and reappearing faster than the eye could follow. The Xylarians fired blindly, their lasers slicing through empty space where human ships had been moments before. One of the alien commanders, a towering figure of glimmering exoskeleton, hissed through translation speakers. "Fools! You cannot hide from perfection." "Maybe not," Mara muttered, "but perfection hasn't met us yet." Then came the first shock. The humans had deployed the Mimic Swarm, tiny drones that mirrored the appearance and movement of their ships. The Xylarians, relying on visual patterns and hive coordination, began attacking phantoms. Collisions tore apart their formations, chaos rippling through the once perfect armada. Lieutenant Harrell's eyes widened. "They're falling into our trap." Mara allowed herself a small smile. "Never underestimate humans. We turn your strengths against you." As the battle raged, the human fleet executed maneuvers that no alien had seen. Ships split into thousands of smaller units, striking from impossible angles. The Xylarians tried to regroup, but every move was anticipated. Mara's strategy was simple yet brilliant. Draw the enemy in, overextend them, and hit with maximum force at their weakest point, the communications nexus at the center of the formation. Below decks, the engineers worked feverishly to maintain the quantum destabilizers, devices capable of sending a wave of energy that could disrupt Xylarian shields. Every second mattered. Every error could mean annihilation. Yet, despite the pressure, there was a spark of human ingenuity, improvisations, split-second calculations, and daring maneuvers that left even Mara awestruck. Hours passed. The Xylarian armada, once so confident, now faltered. Their vast numbers became a liability. Ships collided, shields overloaded, and the flagship's massive hull shuddered under a precise human strike. Mara's voice cut through the tension. "Target the nexus. Fire everything." The weapons discharged in a blinding cascade. Energy tore through the central Xylarian fleet, crippling their communication and coordination. Ships spun out of control, falling into the gravity wells of nearby planets or drifting endlessly into space. On the bridge of the Endurance, Mara allowed herself a moment to breathe. "Status?" she asked. Lieutenant Harrell grinned, a rare sight in the middle of battle. "They're retreating." "Captain, we did it." Mara's eyes scanned the stars again. They had survived the first wave. But this was only the beginning. The galaxy had been watching, and now humans had made a statement. Brilliance could overcome overwhelming numbers. In the distance, on the scorched moon of Beta Centauri 3, Xylarian leaders transmitted a frantic message to the central hive. "Humans, they are unpredictable. They think differently, they fight like nothing we have encountered. Prepare the fleets, all must be mobilized." Mara knew the warning would echo through alien space. They would underestimate humans no longer. And yet, the real test had barely begun. She turned to her crew, eyes blazing with determination. "Remember this. Humans survive because we adapt, because we think. Today we showed the galaxy our minds are our deadliest weapons. Tomorrow, we will prove that our courage is just as sharp." As the Endurance soared into the remnants of battle, the stars themselves seemed to bear witness. Humanity was no longer a footnote in galactic history. They were becoming a force that could change everything. And far across the void, other alien civilizations began to take note. "This is the species we feared," one whispered, voice trembling. Mara's voice echoed in the hearts of every human. "We are humanity. And we are just getting started." The human victory at Beta Centauri sent shockwaves far beyond the battlefield. Across the galaxy, the Xylarians scrambled to reorganize, but news of the small human fleet's brilliance reached other civilizations. Some curious, others wary, and a few quietly fearful. For the first time, humans were no longer considered a minor species. They were a wild card, one that could alter the balance of power. On the neutral world of Virilia, the Galactic Council convened. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered in towering chambers of crystalline structures, their colors shifting with every emotion. The chamber was silent as humans entered. A delegation of 4, led by Ambassador Daniel Cade. Humans had not yet fought another major alien species outside the Xylarians, but that mattered little. Reputation traveled faster than warp drives. The murmurs were audible. "They're small, insignificant," whispered a gelatinous diplomat from the Sorith cluster. How could they oppose the Xylarians? Cade's sharp eyes scanned the chamber. "We don't oppose for the sake of defiance," he said. His voice carried a calm authority that silenced half the room. "We survive. We adapt. And we innovate." A tall, insectoid counselor, legs clicking against the floor, leaned forward. "Do not mistake adaptability for dominance. Your species has been tolerated only because you were irrelevant." Cade smiled faintly. "Tolerance is a fragile thing. But brilliance is undeniable. You've all seen what a few human ships did against thousands of Xylarians. We are not irrelevant. And we are not your enemies, unless you leave us no choice." Gasps echoed through the chamber. A diplomat from the liquid world of Kyra hissed, "Such arrogance. The Xylarians will crush you if you provoke them." "Perhaps," Cade admitted. "But we do not provoke. We prepare. And we act when necessary." Meanwhile, across alien-controlled space, Xylarian leaders convened in a hive-world palace of black crystal spires. Their communication hive glowed as thousands of mental signals surged between commanders. The Council of Dread, as they called themselves, were enraged. One Xylarian general, tall as a starship and jagged as the void, hissed, "Humans, they defied us with cunning, not firepower. They must be studied. Their minds are weapons. They cannot be ignored again." Another general, smaller but no less deadly, responded, "Then we strike on multiple fronts. Capture their homeworlds, enslave their colonies, erase them before they grow further." Back on Earth, Captain Mara Voss and her crew were debriefed. The first wave of the Xylarian retaliation was inevitable. Mara, now recognized as a tactical genius by human leadership, studied maps of deep space. "We need allies," she said to Admiral Rains, the fleet commander. "We can't fight the Xylarians alone forever. But we don't need allies who rely on numbers. We need those who can think, adapt, and innovate with us." Admiral Rains raised an eyebrow. "You mean play galactic politics, Mara? That's a battlefield of a different kind." "Exactly," Mara replied. "And humans are good at all battlefields, physical, strategic, political. We learn fast. Others, they stagnate in their arrogance." Within days, humanity sent envoys to various civilizations. The cunning Sorith, whose warships moved like living shadows, the telepathic Altherians who could sense enemy tactics before they acted, and even the hermit Xrillians whose machines could reshape planets. In every case, humans offered knowledge, strategy, and daring proposals. They did not beg for alliances. They demonstrated value. At first, the aliens resisted. "Why trust these fragile beings?" one counselor demanded. Cade leaned forward, voice steady, "Because they see what others cannot. Because when we fight, we do not follow patterns. We think in ways your species never imagined. And because, in the end, survival favors the prepared, not the numerous." By the end of the negotiations, humans had secured a fragile coalition. Not large, but deadly in its intelligence and ingenuity. Mara called it the Vanguard, a combination of human ingenuity and specialized alien skills, designed to counter the Xylarian armada's overwhelming numbers. Yet even within this fragile alliance, tensions simmered. One alien admiral whispered, "If humans fail, we all fail. Their arrogance could doom us." Mara overheard, smiling thinly. "Let them doubt us. That only makes our victory sweeter." The first joint operation was planned, a daring raid on a Xylarian forward base near the gas giant Varan 9. Humans, small in number but explosive in tactics, would infiltrate the base using cloaked ships, quantum disruptors, and a network of mimic drones. Alien allies who had underestimated humans' creativity now watched with a mixture of awe and disbelief as Mara's team detailed the attack plan, drawing complex battle lines on holographic maps. Lieutenant Harrell, now seasoned from the Beta Centauri engagement, leaned over Mara's shoulder. They're going to be surprised. I've never seen alien ships react this way. They're almost panicking before the fight even begins. Mara's eyes gleamed. Good. Let them panic. That's when humans strike hardest. As the fleet prepared to jump into Varian 9 orbit, Mara transmitted a final message to her team. Remember this, we are humans. They may have numbers, weapons, and overwhelming force. But we have minds, courage, and creativity they cannot match. Today we strike not only at Xylarians, but at the arrogance that thinks any species can be underestimated. Let them see, brilliance is more powerful than numbers. The stars outside the viewport shimmered with anticipation. The galaxy's most dangerous race was about to learn that humans were not to be underestimated. And far across the void, the Xylarians received reports of the new coalition forming, their minds cracking with doubt. These humans, one general hissed, they are becoming a problem we cannot solve with brute force alone. Mara knew the coming battles would be deadlier than Beta Centauri. But humans had already proven one thing. Survival was never about size, it was about ingenuity. And ingenuity, humans had in abundance. The gas giant Varian 9 loomed in the viewport, swirling with thick clouds of green and gold storms. Orbiting its upper rings were jagged asteroid fields, hiding the Xylarian forward base, a fortress built from black crystalline towers that radiated cold alien precision. The human-led Vanguard fleet approached silently, cloaked by a combination of quantum shrouds and asteroid cover. Captain Mara Voss stood on the bridge of the flagship Endurance, her hands resting lightly on the console. She surveyed the holographic map. The base was defended by automated turrets, patrol frigates, and energy shields so strong that conventional weapons would bounce off harmlessly. Yet she smiled. Where the Xylarians relied on raw power and perfect formation, humans, and their allies, relied on creativity and cunning. Remember, Mara said to her crew, her voice calm but firm, they expect numbers to overwhelm. We will surprise them with thought. Every move we make must be precise, every strike coordinated. Let them think they are winning, until it's too late. Lieutenant Harrell, still recovering from the Beta Centauri battle, grinned. I like thinking too. Let's confuse the heck out of them. The first phase of the plan involved stealth insertion. Human shuttlecraft, camouflaged with adaptive cloaking, would land on the base's lower docking bays, bypassing the outer defenses. Meanwhile, the alien allies, Sorith shadow ships and Altherian telepathic scouts, would disable surveillance networks and scramble communications. Humans thrived in chaos, the Xylarians thrived on order. Breaking their order was key. The Vanguard fleet split into 3 vectors, surrounding the base silently. Mara monitored every channel, noting small changes in the Xylarian patrol patterns. She smirked. See that? They're adjusting to our phantom maneuvers. Perfect. As the shuttles descended, alarms flared within the Xylarian base. The aliens had underestimated human stealth. Security drones scurried, but the telepathic Altherians jammed their hive mind signals. Confusion spread. Turrets locked on phantom targets, firing into empty space. Mara whispered to Harrell, "This is our moment. Phase 2, disrupt and strike." The humans unleashed the mimic swarm again, thousands of tiny drones replicating ship signatures. They danced across the battlefield, drawing fire and causing collisions. Meanwhile, Mara's team infiltrated the base's command center through maintenance tunnels, bypassing security checkpoints with tools humans had invented in the heat of combat. Inside, the Xylarian command hub was a spectacle of alien architecture. Spires of black crystal pulsing with green energy, holographic projections of fleets, and a swarm of technicians communicating with hive mind precision. Mara and her squad moved quickly, planting quantum destabilizers designed to collapse energy fields in seconds. Every second counted. Suddenly the alarms intensified. A Xylarian general materialized from the shadows, massive claws and crystalline armor glinting. "Humans, audacious fools," it hissed. Mara stepped forward, eyes steady. "Audacity is what makes humans unstoppable. You rely on numbers. We rely on minds." The general lunged, energy blades slashing, but Mara sidestepped, using a combination of agility and quick-thinking maneuvers. Her squad neutralized the guards, the clash a brutal display of human resourcefulness. Back in orbit, the Vanguard fleet began the final phase, a coordinated strike on the base's shield generators. The Sorith shadow ships darted in, avoiding turrets, while human fighters launched high-speed assault runs. The Xylarians were overwhelmed, forced to split their forces between defense and offense. Status on the destabilizers? Mara asked via comm. Harl's voice crackled. Activated. Shields are dropping. Time to hit them hard. A cascade of human weapons erupted, precise energy beams cutting through the remaining defenses. The shield generators failed spectacularly, leaving the base exposed. Mara's squad detonated the quantum destabilizers inside, sending shockwaves through the crystal spires. Towers crumbled, explosions rippling outward in blinding green light. From orbit, the Xylarian commanders could only watch as their once impenetrable base fell into chaos. Ships collided, turrets malfunctioned, and communications went dark. The humans had done what no other species had dared: strike decisively at the heart of Xylarian operations. Amid the destruction, Mara's voice echoed through the comms. Let this be a lesson. Numbers can overwhelm, but brilliance can destroy empires. The alien allies, previously skeptical of humans, now watched in awe. A Sorith admiral, normally cold and calculating, whispered, They fight unlike anything I've seen. They do not just win, they reshape the battlefield. The victory was swift but costly. Human shuttles escaped just as Xylarian reinforcements began arriving, though their approach was slowed by the chaos humans had sown. Mara guided the fleet out of the gas giant's orbit, leaving the burning ruins of the forward base behind. On the bridge, Mara allowed herself a brief sigh. Harl nudged her. Captain, I think the galaxy just realized humans aren't a threat to underestimate. We're something else entirely. Mara's eyes scanned the stars beyond. Not just something else, Lieutenant. We're the species that turns impossible into inevitable. And this is only the beginning. The Xylarians will strike back. They always do. But they have no idea what's coming. In the void beyond Varan 9, the Xylarians regrouped, their mental signals erratic with frustration. One general hissed, Humans, they are unlike any enemy we've faced. They do not fight with logic alone. They think, they adapt, they anticipate. We may have underestimated them. And far across the galaxy, other alien civilizations whispered, humans were not just survivors, they were masters of war, strategy, and ingenuity. The reputation of humanity as a species that could rewrite the rules of battle was beginning to spread. Mara turned to her crew, eyes blazing. Remember this day. They will learn the cost of underestimating humans. And when they strike next, we'll be ready, smarter, faster, and more brilliant than ever. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, but Mara and her crew knew one thing. They had won a battle, but the war was only beginning. And humanity would rise, not with numbers but with unmatched brilliance. The news of Varan IX's destruction reached the Xylarian High Command like a shockwave. Their forward base, annihilated by a fleet barely a fraction of their size, was proof that humans were no ordinary prey. Rage pulsed through the hive mind, sending thousands of ships into high alert. One general hissed, They are clever. They are dangerous. Mobilize the entire fleet. We will make them pay. Across human space, Earth's colonies began to feel the ripple of Xylarian wrath. Halion Prime, a mining world rich in rare crystals, was the first target. Alerts blared across colony cities and orbital platforms. Xylarian armadas, dark as void and sharp as blades, were jumping into system. Panic gripped civilians, but Earth's military command remained calm. Humans had faced impossible odds before. This time they would face them smarter, not harder. On the bridge of the flagship Endurance, Captain Mara Voss observed the incoming fleet. Thousands of Xylarian ships moved with deadly precision, their shadows stretching across Helion's atmosphere. They're coming fast, she said, voice steady. But we're ready. Lieutenant Harel, bring up the planetary defenses. Already online, Captain, Harel replied, fingers dancing across the console. Energy turrets powered up, quantum shields shimmered around the cities, and automated fighter drones streaked into orbit, ready for interception. Mara turned to the Coalition's alien allies. This is our chance to show them what human strategy really means. The Xylarians think overwhelming numbers win battles. We're about to prove otherwise. The attack began with a deceptive maneuver. Humans deployed decoy drones ahead of Halion, drawing Xylarian fire into empty space. Missiles and energy beams tore through phantom targets while the real Vanguard fleet positioned for a counterstrike. The Xylarians, confused and frustrated, began to split their forces to deal with what they thought were multiple human fleets. In orbit, Mara's team executed Phase 2, the grid collapse. A network of quantum disruptors planted across the system destabilized Xylarian communication. For the first time, the Armada, vast as it was, lost synchronization. Ships collided in space, lasers hitting nothing but other Xylarian vessels. Status on planetary shields? Mara asked. Stable, Captain, reported Harel. We've got a clear window for orbital strikes. Humans were masters of timing. Small, agile fighters darted between massive Xylarian ships, striking weak points in engines and shields. Coalition allies provided telepathic coordination, guiding the human pilots with foresight that even Xylarian commanders could not anticipate. One massive Xylarian dreadnought tried to break the orbiting line, claws tearing at the nearest human cruiser. Mara ordered, target the dorsal engines, hit them simultaneously. In an instant, 3 human frigates unleashed focused energy beams. The dreadnought shuddered, sparks flying across its hull as propulsion failed. It drifted helplessly toward Helion's upper atmosphere. The coalition gasped. Such precision was almost impossible. Humans had calculated angles, velocities, and energy output in real time, an improvisation no alien species could replicate. Meanwhile, on the surface, civilians watched the sky with awe. Humanity's ingenuity shone brightly. Automated shield grids bent incoming fire, evacuation shuttles used unpredictable flight patterns, and even mining machinery was repurposed as emergency weapons. The Xylarians, used to civilizations surrendering at their approach, found themselves facing organized resistance. In the thick of battle, Mara received a transmission from one of the alien allies, the Sorith Admiral. Captain, they are adapting to your unpredictability. Their numbers mean nothing if they cannot coordinate. You are teaching them fear. Mara's eyes narrowed. Good. Let them fear us. Fear slows even the most efficient machine. Now, finish Phase 3. Phase 3 was a human innovation no alien had anticipated, the orbital collapse trap. Large human cruisers maneuvered to create artificial gravity wells, pulling fragments of Xylarian ships toward each other. Massive collisions erupted across orbit, sending energy blasts that disabled entire squadrons. The Xylarians had numbers, but their perfection was now a liability. Hours passed. The Vanguard fleet, small but brilliant, had turned Helion skies into a battlefield only humans could dominate. Finally, the Xylarians began retreating, battered and broken. Mara's voice echoed over the comms. Let this day remind every empire. Numbers cannot match the ingenuity of human minds, courage, and adaptability. Today humanity protects its own, and tomorrow, we shape the galaxy. But victory came at a cost. Human ships had sustained damage and colonies required repairs. Mara walked the Endurance's corridors, seeing exhausted crews but proud faces. Lieutenant Harel approached. We did it, Captain. Helion is safe, for now. Mara nodded. Yes. But the Xylarians won't stop. They'll adapt. And neither will we. On the other side of space, the Xylarian High Command was in turmoil. Their calculations had failed, their vast fleets rendered ineffective by humans' brilliance. One general hissed, they fight unlike any enemy. We cannot overwhelm them. We cannot predict them. Prepare for everything. The galaxy watched. Rumors of human genius, their audacity and unrelenting courage spread like wildfire. Even neutral species began to reconsider alliances, realizing humans were not prey, they were apex strategists, capable of reshaping war itself. Mara returned to the bridge, staring at the stars beyond Helion. She whispered, more to herself than anyone else. We have defended our own. We have survived the impossible. And the galaxy will never underestimate humans again. Above her, the stars stretched infinitely, silent witnesses to humanity's brilliance. Below, Helion cities lit the darkness, a testament to resilience and ingenuity. Somewhere across the void, the Xylarians were regrouping, but Mara knew one truth. Humans did not fight like any other species. Humans adapted, outsmarted, and endured. And the war for the galaxy's recognition had only begun. The Xylarian retreat from Helion Prime had barely begun when humans decided it was time to strike. Captain Mara Voss, now recognized across the galaxy as a tactical genius, gathered her command team aboard the Endurance. The Xylarians believe themselves invincible in their territory, Mara said, pointing at a holographic map of the Lysara sector, heart of Xylarian space. They think numbers alone make them untouchable. We're going to prove them wrong. Lieutenant Harel, tense but eager, frowned. Captain, this is deep in enemy space. One wrong move and we could be annihilated. Are you sure? Mara's eyes glinted. That's why we're going, Lieutenant. The deeper we strike, the more we control the narrative. Numbers can intimidate, but brilliance intimidates more. The Vanguard fleet jumped into Lysara, cloaked in a network of asteroid belts and gravitational distortions. Mara had studied the Xylarian fleet movements for months, finding gaps in patrol schedules, blind zones and predictable response patterns. The humans moved like ghosts, avoiding detection while positioning for maximum impact. Their target was the Lysara Command Nexus, a massive orbital citadel where the Xylarians coordinated fleets across dozens of systems. Destroying it would cripple their ability to strike multiple human colonies simultaneously. Phase 1, Phantom Infiltration, Mara commanded. Swarms of human drones, invisible to Xylarian sensors, darted ahead, mapping turrets, communication nodes and defensive shields. The Xylarians detected anomalies, but the drones vanished before any countermeasures could react. At the same time, coalition allies carried out coordinated strikes. Sorith shadow ships disabled orbital sensors while Altherian telepoths jammed communication nodes, leaving the Xylarian fleet blind and disoriented. Mara's plan was to turn the Xylarians' confidence against them. Inside the Nexus, the Xylarian generals were growing anxious. Humans are in our space, how? They should be detected, one hissed. They fight like nothing we've encountered. We cannot predict them. Mara's team infiltrated the Citadel in a high-speed shuttle, bypassing primary defenses with quantum phase drives. The human boarding team moved with precision. Engineers, strategists, and elite soldiers working in perfect synchronization. Suddenly, an unexpected twist. The Xylarians had anticipated a direct assault and laid a trap within the Citadel's central core. Automated defense drones swarmed the human team, cutting off their route to the command interface. Mara's voice crackled in their comms. Adapt. Improvise. Overcome. Split into two groups. One neutralizes the drones, the other reaches the core. Lieutenant Harrell led the strike team through maintenance tunnels, using improvised explosives and energy disruptors to collapse sections of the drone swarm. Engineers hacked turret networks remotely, turning enemy defenses against themselves. Each human movement was unpredictable, calculated, and devastatingly effective. Meanwhile, Mara coordinated the fleet outside. Human ships feigned retreats and ambushes, drawing Xylarian dreadnoughts into narrow asteroid belts. When trapped, quantum destabilizers disabled engines, sending massive ships colliding into one another in spectacular explosions. Back in the Nexus, the boarding team reached the central core. Mara's comm crackled again. Deploy the core disruptor. Timing is everything. The human engineers worked in synchronized precision. Lights blinked, alarms screeched, and for a moment, the entire Citadel seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a pulse of quantum energy, the core destabilized. Energy cascades tore through the Citadel's structure, knocking out shields and communication networks. In orbit, the Xylarian fleet panicked. Without guidance, their once perfect formations collapsed. Ships collided, weapons misfired, and the humans struck relentlessly from unexpected angles. Mara had turned the heart of the Xylarian Empire into chaos with a fleet smaller than a tenth of theirs. Inside the crumbling citadel, Mara's boarding team transmitted a final message to the Xylarian generals. This is what brilliance looks like. This is what it means to underestimate humans. You may have numbers, but we have minds, courage, and adaptability that no quantity of ships can match. The Xylarian generals, forced to evacuate, hissed in disbelief. Impossible, they think, they anticipate, they destroy with ingenuity. As the Vanguard fleet jumped out of Lysara space, the galaxy had witnessed something unprecedented. Humans had struck deep into enemy territory, shattering the notion that numbers alone could dominate the void. Even skeptical alien species began to whisper among themselves. Humans were not just survivors, they were apex strategists, capable of rewriting the rules of warfare. On the Endurance, Mara gazed at the stars. She allowed herself a rare smile. We've made them afraid. But we must be ready. Fear is temporary, brilliance is permanent. And we have plenty to give. Lieutenant Harrell, exhausted but exhilarated, nodded. Captain, do you think they'll ever understand humans? Mara's eyes burned with quiet determination. They may never understand us, and that's exactly how it should be. They only need to know this: humans cannot be beaten by numbers because we fight with something they can never match: creativity, courage, and brilliance. Across the galaxy, the echoes of this strike reached every corner. The Xylarians were shaken, alliances began to reconsider, and neutral worlds started to pay attention. Humanity had transformed from underestimated species to a force that could not be ignored. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, Mara and her crew knew one thing: the war was far from over. But the tide had changed. Humanity was no longer hiding in the shadows of the galaxy. They were its brightest, most unpredictable fire. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath. The Xylarians, humiliated by repeated defeats, unleashed their ultimate response: a full-scale counterattack aimed at humanity itself. Thousands of ships, more massive and deadly than any fleet ever seen, poured from their home systems. Entire sectors were mobilized. The High Command hissed through the hive mind: destroy them. Erase their worlds. Let no human survive. Across human space, alarms screamed. Earth's colonies braced for impact, emergency protocols activating instantly. Captain Mara Voss stood on the bridge of the Endurance, her eyes scanning the holographic display of incoming fleets. This was it, the moment when humans would face numbers beyond imagination. Lieutenant Harrell's voice trembled, though excitement tinged it. "Captain, they've brought everything. We're outnumbered, hundreds to one." Mara's expression remained calm, almost serene. "Numbers mean nothing if we think faster, strike smarter, and adapt more than they ever can. Prepare the fleet. Today we show the galaxy what humans are truly capable of." The Vanguard fleet, now fully integrated with allied species, moved into position. Every ship, every pilot, every drone was ready. The humans' plan was audacious: draw the Xylarians into a massive nebula in the Quran Belt, where sensors and weapons would be disrupted. The aliens relied on hive coordination. If that was broken, even thousands of ships could be outmaneuvered. Phase 1, the Phantom Gauntlet, Mara announced. Swarms of human mimic drones darted ahead, creating hundreds of phantom targets. The Xylarian fleet, expecting direct confrontation, fired relentlessly at illusions, wasting energy and time. Ships collided, lasers misfired, and the first cracks in their perfect formation appeared. Then came Phase 2, disruption in the nebula. The Vanguard lured the Xylarians into dense clouds of gas and plasma. Human and allied ships twisted through the nebula with precision that defied physics, while destabilizers scrambled enemy sensors. The Xylarians, unable to coordinate, began turning on each other, firing blindly. Mara's eyes glinted. "Good. Let them fight themselves." Suddenly, a massive shockwave ripped through the nebula. The Xylarian flagship had detected the trap and fired a concentrated plasma burst. Several human frigates were hit, explosions tearing across their hulls. Mara's voice cut through the chaos. "Hold formation. Adapt. Improvise. Use the debris as cover." Lieutenant Harrell maneuvered the Endurance through flaming wreckage. "Captain, we've lost ships." "Then we make them pay," Mara snapped. "We are humans. We turn loss into advantage. Target their wing leaders, they guide the swarm. Take them out and the rest will falter." The humans struck with terrifying precision. Agile frigates and fighter squadrons hit the Xylarian wing leaders, using kinetic disruptors and quantum torpedoes. Ships faltered, then drifted helplessly into the nebula. Mara's mind worked faster than any algorithm. Every movement anticipated, every counterstrike predicted. But the true shock came when the Xylarian High Command deployed the Hive Titan, a gargantuan warship bristling with thousands of weapons and protected by multi-layer shields. Even the humans' advanced tech struggled to penetrate its defenses. Mara's jaw tightened. "This is it," she said. "Time for Phase 3, the Human Gambit." Human engineers and tacticians had prepared a daring plan. They would sacrifice several smaller ships to lure the Titan into a narrow asteroid field, while the rest of the fleet attacked weak points using synchronized quantum blasts. Harrell's voice was tense. "We're asking them to die, Captain." Mara's gaze was steel. "They are not dying. They are creating the opportunity for the rest of humanity to survive." Courage and brilliance go hand in hand. The plan unfolded flawlessly. As smaller ships drew the Titan into the asteroid field, the massive vessel struggled to maneuver. Its shields fluctuated, energy cannons misfired, and Mara's fleet struck with precision strikes from every angle. The Titan shuddered, massive hull cracking under combined assault. Below decks, human engineers deployed emergency quantum disruptors, small devices designed to create chain reactions in alien energy matrices. One pulse after another destabilized the Titan's shields. Finally, a blinding explosion tore through the vessel, sending fragments tumbling across the nebula. The remaining Xylarian fleet, leaderless and disoriented, began retreating. Mara's voice rang through comms. "Let this day be remembered. We faced the impossible and we adapted. We outthought, outmaneuvered, and outlasted. This is what humans do. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. Humans had faced hundreds of ships with a fraction of their own and emerged victorious. The allied species, once skeptical, now regarded humanity as not just valuable but indispensable. Mara allowed herself a rare smile as she surveyed the bridge. "We survived the crucible," she said quietly. "But this war is far from over. They will return, stronger, smarter, angrier. And so must we." In the void beyond the nebula, the Xylarian High Command hissed in frustration. "They cannot be beaten by numbers. They are not predictable. We underestimated them, and it will cost us dearly." And somewhere across human space, civilians celebrated cautiously. Humanity had not only survived annihilation, they had done the impossible. They had faced the apex force of the galaxy and demonstrated that intelligence, courage, and adaptability could overcome sheer numbers. Mara's eyes returned to the stars. "We have proven one thing beyond all doubt: humans do not yield. Humans do not surrender. And humans will always find a way." The stars beyond the nebula stretched endlessly, bearing witness to a species that had transformed from underestimated to unstoppable. And the final act of this galactic saga, the ultimate confrontation between humans and Xylarians, was drawing ever closer. The Lysara sector lay in ruins. Smoke and debris drifted across space where once mighty Xylarian fleets had dominated. The galaxy had watched humanity defy all odds, a small species standing against what seemed unstoppable. Yet even in victory the danger remained. The Xylarians were not gone, they were regrouping, desperate and vengeful. This would be the final confrontation. Captain Mara Voss stood on the bridge of the Endurance, her crew tense but ready. Below them, Earth and human colonies buzzed with energy, preparing reserves and reinforcements. Mara's eyes scanned the display of the approaching Xylarian armada. Thousands of ships, more massive than any seen before, moved in perfect formation, intent on annihilation. Lieutenant Harrell whispered, voice tight with awe and fear, "Captain, this is it. Hundreds of ships, all aimed at us. Are we ready?" Mara's gaze was unwavering. "Ready? Oh, prepared? Absolutely. Humans survive because we think, we adapt, and we act. And today we will show the galaxy what it means to fight with brilliance." The plan was audacious. Instead of retreating or holding, the humans and allied forces would strike first, targeting the Xylarian War Council aboard their central flagship, the heart of their command. If the council fell, the swarm would collapse. Phase 1, Ghost Maneuver, Mara commanded. Human ships darted in unpredictable patterns, weaving between massive dreadnoughts while quantum disruptors scrambled Xylarian sensors. Even the most disciplined alien pilots were forced into chaos. As the Vanguard approached the central flagship, Mara activated Phase 2, Core Infiltration. Elite human boarding teams teleported directly onto the massive vessel, using cloaked shuttles and gravitational anchoring to bypass external defenses. The Xylarians were stunned. No species had ever dared enter the heart of their fleet during battle. Inside, Mara's boarding party faced a wall of crystalline warriors, weapons shimmering with lethal energy. The humans moved with synchronized precision, every step a calculated strike. Explosions ripped through corridors as disruptors disabled shields and energy grids. The unexpected twist came from the Xylarian High Commander himself. Towering and jagged, he appeared in the central hall, clawed limbs bristling with weapons. "Humans, you dare defile my flagship?" Mara stepped forward, calm and resolute. "We dare because your arrogance left us no choice. You relied on numbers, we rely on minds. And today our minds win." The battle that followed was brutal, a dance of skill and ingenuity. Mara's squad used every tool at their disposal: energy grenades, quantum pulses, and improvised tactics that even Xylarians couldn't anticipate. The commander lashed out, powerful energy strikes tearing the walls, but the humans anticipated every move. Finally, with one coordinated strike, the central control core was destroyed. Power systems failed, communications collapsed, and the Xylarian flagship erupted in a cascade of explosions. Across the fleet, chaos spread instantly. Without leadership, the massive armada faltered, turning on itself as smaller squadrons collided or fled in panic. Outside, Mara's fleet struck with precision. Each human and allied ship targeted weak points, exploiting confusion. Within hours, what had seemed an unstoppable armada was in full retreat. The galaxy had witnessed what no species had ever done: a smaller, underestimated civilization defeating a superior force through brilliance, courage, and adaptability. As the smoke cleared, Mara addressed the fleet via comms. Let this be known, humanity is not to be underestimated. We are not defined by numbers or size but by mind, courage, and unity. We fight with brilliance, we endure against the impossible, and we will shape the galaxy for the better. Today humans ascend. Across human colonies, civilians cheered. Alien allies, once skeptical, now treated humans as equals, essential to the survival of their own civilizations. Even previously neutral species began extending alliances, eager to learn from humanity's ingenuity. In the quiet aftermath, Mara stood on the bridge, staring at the stars. Lieutenant Harrell approached, weary but exhilarated. Captain, we did it. The Xylarians, they'll never forget this. Mara nodded slowly. No, they won't. And neither will the galaxy. But remember, Harrell, this is not the end. Humans did not just survive, we proved that we are apex thinkers, innovators, and warriors. We showed the universe the true meaning of resilience. That is our legacy. Far across space, remnants of the Xylarians regrouped, scarred and humbled. One general hissed through broken comms, they are not just clever, they are unstoppable. And somewhere in the void, the galaxy itself seemed to shift. Humans, once underestimated, now commanded attention. Their ingenuity, courage, and adaptability were unparalleled. The story of humanity, small, unpredictable, brilliant, would echo through the stars for generations. Mara looked back at the bridge crew, pride shining in her eyes. The war is over. The galaxy knows who we are. Humans do not yield. Humans do not surrender. Humans endure and rise. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, silent witnesses to a species that had turned impossible odds into legendary triumph. Humanity had ascended, not by numbers but by brilliance, courage, and unwavering spirit. And the universe would never underestimate them again.